Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mayor Brodie to the stage.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. It's wonderful to see so many of our good friends here this afternoon. I was talking to Matt Pitcairn, and we decided that this is the sixth year in a row that I've been able to present my annual address courtesy of an event sponsored by the Chamber, and we do appreciate the great work that the Chamber does all year around, and particularly for this event. I'm also very pleased to welcome in particular all the city councillors who have joined me today. You may know that we will occasionally have a difference or two, but every single member of the City Council works as hard as they can to make sure that we have a very good community and a city in which we can work and live and play, one that will make us very proud. And I think that they do a great job. So let's hear it for the city councillors. Now, what we're going to do today, I'm going to make some verbal remarks for a while, and then we'll get into a Q&A session so you can be saving your questions. Matt, how's it going to work? Are they going to be written questions or no? So, okay, it'll be a roving mic in due course. Now, I'll make my verbal presentation a longer and more detailed version of the annual address is in this document. You'll be given a copy of this document if you would like to take a copy with you after my address. And of course, as usual, should you have any questions or comments or concerns or observations, we'd love to hear from you. So last year, it was November 10th last year that our city celebrated its 140th anniversary of incorporation as a vibrant, growing urban center filled with unprecedented opportunity and possibilities. Now as a council, we're into the second year of our current city council term, and of course, like in all your businesses, we find that our role is ever more complex as we meet the current challenges and envision a path to a very bright future for our city. Now, last year in the first term, we devised a 4-year strategic plan. And in front of you, you will find these cards. These cards outline the 8 key points of our strategic plan, and I'm going to mention each one of them just very briefly and talk about how we've been fulfilling the various goals on them. The components of the plan underscore our major challenges and our opportunities as we work hard to preserve the quality of life at a very high level that we've been able to enjoy in the city of Richmond. So our first goal is to have a safe and resilient city, and if we're going to do that, we need vision along with supporting infrastructure. Based on strong planning and leadership in the development of our partnerships and practices, City Council is safeguarding our community for future generations. And the most important ingredient would be the RCMP and the Richmond Fire Rescue and their personnel. So last year we made a major commitment for us that we would, over 3 years, increase our community safety complement. We would add 51 RCMP officers, 20 municipal employees in support, as well as 36 firefighters. So last year was the first year of our major recruitment program. This is the second year. We've got one more year to go after this. And what that will do is that will enable us to maintain one of the lowest rates of violence and property crimes in the Metro Vancouver region, as well as to be assured of timely firefighter response. Now, as important as the people are, it's also a matter of the equipment. So, if we're going to be safe, this is something that you'll see more of this year. These are the traffic intersection cameras, and they're going to be installed to support law enforcement. And the first responders, the police and the fire, now have an app to give them quick entry into locked multifamily and commercial premises, and that's important, of course, when seconds count in an emergency. And also, you probably remember the fire that we had on the D&D lands right in the middle of our city, depicted in the top left. And in order to prevent problems like a fire like that getting out of control in the future, we purchased a specifically equipped trailer, and that's going to protect us against any future wildfire threat. Now, over at the airport, there's, of course, many facets to safety as they process over 26 million passengers each year, along with over 300,000 tons of cargo. Now, one of the components to safety over at the airport that doesn't get a lot of mention deals with these guys. The snow geese. Just think what would happen if one of those got in the way of an airplane that you were in. That really wouldn't be very pretty. So what we do is we have a snow geese deterrence program, and we engage the community volunteers along with some really highly trained dogs. And what they do is they keep the airport free of snow geese, as the migratory path of these birds can pose a very significant danger to aircraft. And so with those animals, those snow geese are encouraged to relocate to some specially sown farmland in South Richmond and Delta and keep everybody safe. Now, this last year, you're aware that money laundering has been a real concern. The jurisdiction to deal with money laundering is largely at the more senior levels of government, but City Council did take a number of steps. First of all, when anybody goes to pay their taxes or pay some of the bills to the city, cumulatively, you can't give the city more than $10,000 in cash anymore. And also, we advocated for more transparency through legislative reform to mandate the disclosure of the true beneficial ownership of land and corporations. We also work with the Touchstone Family Association, and we've funded the restorative justice program that they operate. Under this program, it brings together a youth offender along with the victim, and they make an agreement that's going to hold the offender accountable. And the beneficial results of this kind of a program likely far exceed what we could expect under the traditional criminal justice approach. Our second goal is to have a sustainable and environmentally conscious city. We're reminded each and every day that climate change poses an existential threat to the world. So Richmond declared a climate emergency. Now, we made that declaration, but I don't want you going away thinking that that's all we did. In fact, what really counts are the actions that we have taken really for decades. And the declaration reminds us of the importance of the extensive environmental programs that we have in the city. So we have a very long list of environmental actions, and I'll just give you a few of them as examples. Because of the threat of rising sea levels, we spent over $16 million last year. We raised the dikes on the South Dike between Gilbert and Number 3 Road by almost 2 meters. Unfortunately, we've got the best part of 49 kilometers to go, but it's a start and it's a long-range program. We're in the midst of a multi-year program to upgrade many of our drainage pump stations, and we upgraded over 5 kilometers of water lines to improve the water quality and decrease the water usage in our city. This is in addition to the water meter program, and you see the tops of the water meter right there, and other conservation programs we have for water. Now, as an established local government leader in climate action, we've implemented practices to build a sustainable, environmentally conscious city. So one of the things we did is we introduced a bylaw which bans the use of single-use plastics, such as depicted here with the bags and the foam containers and the straws. That bylaw, or that set of bylaws, is now awaiting provincial approval, and we hope to get it pretty soon. But in the meantime, We're consulting with businesses. Many of the sessions are together with the Chamber, but we want businesses to know what's coming and to be able to make that kind of change without a big problem in the near future. As a city on the environment, we've also adopted many circular economy principles, and by using this kind of an approach, what we do is we design systems to reduce the amount of waste that we generate and to encourage the reuse and the regeneration of materials after their normal lifespan would be over. So one of the best examples of what we do there is in the Richmond Recycling Depot. Probably most of you have been to this facility on Linus Lane. Last year, we extended the opening for the recycling depot to 6 days a week, and that generated an extra 40,000 visits. And by the middle of this year, we're going to be opening that 7th day, and we've also extended the list of materials that will be accepted. Now, despite growth, the city plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 50% over the next decade. So look at how we are expanding the vehicle fleet when it comes to the electric vehicles and the propane vehicles. And we're also adding to the number of public electric vehicle chargers that we have right across the community. And we brought in a very nominal fee structure, which is going to encourage people to just leave their vehicle there while it's being charged, and once it's finished being charged, to take it away so we can get far more turnover. We're also extending the award-winning district energy infrastructure, and this is just a small part of it, that now heats and cools over 4 million square feet of space in the 3,700 condominium units. The food sector is also part of our environmental initiatives. We work with our partners. We're expanding. These are some of the community gardens. We've got 350 of them, and we're going to be expanding them. We also launched the Richmond Food Recovery Program, which encourages commercial food businesses, the restaurants, the grocery stores, to divert their surplus edible, nutritious foods from the landfill. And that is going to create about 300,000 meals and also result in about $1 million in savings. Our third goal is to have one community together. Our city is a place of resiliency, identity, and belonging. Our growing population now is over 225,000 people, and it's supported by extensive infrastructure and our robust business sector, as well as our access to transportation links for people, goods, and services. Now, our diversity does make our city unique, and that can, unfortunately, sometimes, it can lead to some tensions and differences. So one step we took was to develop Canada's first municipal cultural harmony plan, and that's to respond to the changing needs of Richmond's increasingly diverse population. And last July, you may remember, to support Pride Week, we installed our first painted rainbow crosswalk as a reminder that the City of Richmond is a city of inclusion, respect, and support. And to build community, we foster belonging and resilience through culture, arts, and heritage each year. And we work with all our partners on a whole range of activities. I'm sure you've been part of the July 1st celebrations in Stevenson for the Salmon Festival. On Labor Day weekend at Minaroo Park, we now have the Richmond World Festival. We entertain over 60,000 people for an annual celebration of music, dance, art, culture, and food. And there are so many other events. Just one example is the Children's Art Festival that we held this last weekend on Family Day. Our fourth goal is an active and thriving Richmond. Richmond is already amongst the healthiest communities in Canada. Just take a look at the infrastructure we provide to ensure the wellness and the good health for our residents. Now, we have the Minaroo Centre for Active Living. We know that that's going to soon open in full. Last year, we were able to open the Senior Center, And on January 1st this year, we opened a very large fitness center. And we know that this year, our contractors are working really hard to fix the problems with the pool that they encountered before the job was complete. So we hope to open that by late summer into the fall. We'll be opening the aquatic center. And last weekend over at the Oval, hopefully some of you took part in the celebrations. We took a full weekend to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Olympic Winter Games. It was 10 years ago today that they held the qualifying heats for the men's and women's team pursuit speed skating. And the next day, it was the Canadian men's team, the one depicted on top there. That team won the gold medal, and that featured the BC teammate, Denny Morrison. And I've also included this picture on the bottom. We have so many other members of our speed skating team who were medalists and who were great contributors. This is Christine Nesbitt, and she's one of the Canadian gold medalists. But for us, you know that it was more than just the competitions. We also had the celebration site, the Ozone celebration site, and hopefully many of you, when you see these pictures, it really reminds you of what we were able to do. The top left is Heineken House. How many people got to Heineken House? Yeah. See what we do for you guys? No, we could relive this for a long time. I expect we will. That gets us to 2030, another conversation. But in any case, we wanted to have the celebration site, and we entertained over 500,000 people in 17 days at that Ozone celebration site. What a great time that was. Now, the Richmond Olympic Oval now has over 6,000 members. They are of all ages and backgrounds, and they regularly attend to play, participate, or watch the action. The Oval itself hosts dozens of major events annually, and that results directly in thousands of hotel room nights for our visitors. And the Oval participates in the training of some of the highest level athletes in the country on the national teams, the wheelchair rugby, the softball, the volleyball players, the table tennis, the field hockey team, and the sport climbing, just to mention a few. Our city overall hosts over 70 major sporting events each year, and again, that attracts millions and millions of dollars in direct economic benefits. So we think this year is going to be a big one. First of all, in just a couple of weeks is the Carha Hockey World Cup, Canadian Adult Recreational Hockey Association, and it's their World Cup, often called the Olympic Games of Recreational Hockey. Get this. They're bringing at least 140 teams to Richmond. And they come from all over the world, from many different countries right around the globe. And provincially, in the fall, in September, Richmond is hosting the BC 55+ Games. And that's an event that attracts over 4,000 participants in 32 different competitions, ranging from golf, soccer, and tennis to lawn bowling, curling, and pickleball, and many, many others. Now, our other facilities also encourage us to be active and thriving as a community, and these include in Minaroo Park, this tennis bubble is soon to be replaced. We recently installed the bright new running track at the Clement track. We're replacing the 50-year-old lawn bowling clubhouse. The Minaroo Place Activity Center, the old senior center, is being converted to community arts programming uses, and the Minaroo Lakes are going to be renewed this year. Elsewhere, we're still planning the new community center on Capstan Way. That's still a couple of years off, but that's going to be a very good facility in North Richmond. And at Hugh Boyd Park in the last year, we replaced the 24,000 square meters artificial turf fields, which is still one of the largest fields, artificial turf fields of its kind in the country. And finally, after many years of discussion, finally, we are going to have a new Stevenson Community Center and branch library. Council approved the concepts. The next step in that journey will be to determine where on the Stevenson Park site we're going to have the new facility and what are the actual design concepts. Now, all of these programs in the facilities and all of the events that I'm talking about are supported by many generous volunteers who commit thousands of hours each year, and they make such a difference to our community. But we also provide some other kinds of support. Last year, our city funded our first mental health card to create a partnership between the RCMP and Vancouver Coastal Health. We've seen in other cities how successful this model can be, because instead of when there's some kind of a problem and the RCMP get called and they make an arrest and deal with it, by working together with the mental health professionals, the problems can often be addressed without involving law enforcement, just in the case when there's mental health issues in play. And also, we identified the health hazards in general that come from vaping. And we're particularly concerned about the youth in our community. So we brought in the bylaw that says, you know, where you're not allowed to smoke, you're also not allowed to vape. And more importantly, we brought in an advertising ban on vaping and related products taking place on city properties, such as the bus shelters. And we were the first city in the region, probably in the province, to implement such a ban. Now, the fifth goal is sound financial management. Maintaining a sound financial position is difficult. You all know this from your enterprises, right? It requires discipline, accountability, responsible decision-making, and vision. And I think that we're well-positioned as a city for the financial challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. I believe that we've always been able to be relatively reasonable compared to other cities in the region in terms of our tax rates. When you look at this graph, this is from 2019. The bottom part in light blue, that's the amount of taxes on an average dwelling. The top purple, that's the cost of the utilities. So when you look at Richmond, which is on the far left, you'll see that we're the lowest of the 5 largest cities in the region: Surrey, Burnaby, Coquitlam, Vancouver. Unfortunately, 2020, there is going to be a higher tax draw than usual, and that's for 2 reasons. First of all, we talked about the community safety complement and adding so many firefighters and RCMP and municipal staff to our roles. You know, that's very, very expensive. And also, each year we add to our reserves because we're going to be building some very expensive facilities in the future, and we need the reserves to avoid borrowing to accomplish those facilities. One of our success stories, though, is at the Richmond Ice Center. Ever since that facility was new, the city has leased it and operated it, and there's a huge number of people that use that particular facility. And so after leasing it for so many years, we bought it last year. This is 155,000 square feet as a multi-rink, and it's located on 8 strategically located acres. So we think it's a good investment, period, and especially a good investment in the recreation for our city. Our 6th goal is to be strategic and well-planned in our growth. I've talked about the fact that we are growing rapidly in population and infrastructure, and we want to preserve our tradition of fostering strong, connected communities that build a sense of pride, family, and belonging. So last year, mostly in our city center, building permits for almost $1 billion in construction were issued. And overall, we're one of the few cities in Metro Vancouver to exceed the annual new home housing targets. And to support the families in our city, we're adding each year to the cycling networks. We added just over 3 kilometers last year for the bike lanes. This year, there's lots of work in construction and for the designs. This is the artist's depiction of North Richmond in the area where I showed you the new community center is going to be located. That's number 3 road right in the middle going up and down. On the right side of that is the capstan station. We have now given TransLink $29 million there to build that capstan station within a couple of years. And this year we expect, courtesy of TransLink, that the capacity on the Canada line is going to be expanded by about 35%. That's going to make a remarkable difference to transportation in and out of our city. And we worked with the development community last year, as in all years, on a supply of affordable rental housing. We secured 179 new affordable housing units and almost $2.5 million in cash contributions into the Affordable Housing Fund. And we opened a 36-bed emergency shelter for the men and women. Our previous shelters were closing down. And that's depicted on the top. If you look to the bottom of the picture, that's the 40-unit supportive housing project, again to house some Richmond residents who simply don't have a home. And we're looking for a permanent site for that facility. It'll be there for a few years, but after that we're looking to move it and make it permanent. Our 7th goal is a supported economic sector. We've always had a strong business sector. You're all part of that here at the Chamber. And we have one of the highest jobs-to-worker ratios in the region, and the majority of our jobs are linked to the city's location as a gateway for people and goods movement, such as transportation, warehousing and logistics, manufacturing, wholesale, and tourism. For tourism, that's an increasingly strong driver for the local economy, and we've enjoyed some very high hotel occupancy rates, and we worked closely as a city with Tourism Richmond and the Hotel Association to just keep that ball rolling. Activities relating to the legalization of recreational marijuana have required attention from City Council this past year. So not only did we restrict previously the retail sale of this product, but also we imposed some restrictions and regulations on the growing of marijuana in the agricultural land reserve, and worked with Metro Vancouver on the very important issue for this crop, which is odor control. And our filming sector continues to be thriving in Richmond. Last year we doubled the number of filming days throughout our city. And our final goal is an engaged and informed community. A safe and resilient city is one whose residents and businesses are engaged and provide input on future direction. The city constantly seeks opportunities for public engagement, and this helps us to fundamentally improve our decision-making and better meet our needs. So last year, our city organized over 20 public engagement projects on a range of topics. That's not just 20 sessions such as depicted here, but it's a whole package of communication, and there was 20 of these projects. And on the internet, our city now gets over 2 million views each year for our webpage, and we're also experiencing significant increases in followers and engagement on Facebook and Twitter. So let's talk briefly about the year ahead, because we won a lot of awards last year, and we expect that 2020 is going to be equally full of activity. So you know that ride-hailing, the companies like Uber, Lyft, and Cabu, they are a reality. They received the go-ahead from the Passenger Transportation Board, and local government now has to finalize all the bylaws that will enable this to happen. The most important of which is coming to our council, and it'll be done, I think, by the end of March. It's the intermunicipal business license, so that the cars can go anywhere in the entire region and pick up and drop off their passengers. This year, we hope that the province settles the issues around the Massey tunnel replacement and what is the appropriate structure. I know there's some mixed emotions and opinions in this room. We all know that this is the biggest bottleneck and something has to be done. And our city council has always sought the tunnel option, But this year, we've got to get a commitment and get the go-ahead. And speaking of the province, this is another provincial opportunity that needs to be addressed. Our local hospital is, again, you probably all have heard this and you know, that our local hospital is obsolete and it's inadequate for our future growth. And we need a provincial commitment this year. What do you think of that, eh? That is absolutely critical for us, and I do want to say a special word of thanks to the members of the community that really stepped up how the system seems to work. I mean, it's the government's responsibility to pay for the hospital, right? Now, if you want to get into the line, you've got to show that you've got community support for it in the most sincere way, which is to get money that is going to be applied towards it. And so the Hospital Foundation has been working very hard on it, and they're coming to the point that they're reaching the commitments they had made. So I'm very proud and pleased that the local community has been so supportive in terms of this particular project. But this year, we've got to get that commitment from the province. For recreational marijuana, we talked about that. Senior governments bring in the laws, they make it legal. They leave it to the locals to enforce the regulations. They take the tax money and they haven't given us any. So they think that's fair. But we are working very hard on insisting that senior levels of government give us some of that tax money to cover those enforcement costs. And to accommodate our anticipated growth, we expect more projects in the city center area, such as this one, which is the artist concept for the redevelopment of the 50-acre Lansdowne Center site. And a couple of facilities that will be opening in the next couple of months, we expect. First of all is the Community Police Office. This is a small building across from the fire hall at Granville and Gilbert. And we hope that that's going to be open in a couple months as a new city center police office, and that's going to improve police response times. And we're also looking forward to our 10th licensed childcare facility that we have as a city. This is going to provide 81 more childcare spaces in the Bridgeport area. So let me conclude by observing that Richmond City Council's strategic plan provides a visionary plan for the direction that we want to take. It reflects Council's desire to provide proactive and forward-thinking leadership that recognizes our unique identity as well as our rich history. Our future success will depend in part on how well City Council develops partnerships in the public and private sectors while working with fully engaged residents and businesses. Our many civic achievements during 2019 and the expectations for the future will continue to improve the lives and the affairs of our residents and businesses. The City of Richmond has always been a leader with bold, innovative programs and strategies as we build a safe and resilient city for generations to come. Each member of Richmond City Council looks forward to another year of success and to working with all of you who live or work in our city. Thank you very much. We'll look forward to your questions. Thank you.